Mangwanani malelepo vukenjani klekpa savana ve Africa. You are at the absolute right place with Africa. Good morning on a joyous Easter Friday, and we are certainly happy to be here. And we greet you on this sacred day by turning to Zimbabwe. On 18 April 2025, as the nation marks its 45th Independence Day, we delve into a land of stunning landscapes, a political arena gripped by President Emerson Mnangagwa's bid to extend his rule, and stories of defiance that echo Easter's call for renewal. Now, Zimbabwe's natural wonders captivate the world. Victoria Falls, known as Mosiwa Tunya, the smoke that thunders, roars as the Zambezi plunges its mist-drawing adventures. Mana Pools, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, pulses with wildlife, while Lwange National Park shelters vast elephant herds. The Eastern Highlands Mount Nyangani at 2,593 meters frames tranquil vistas. Tourism is a lifeline, with 1.2 million visitors in the first half of 2024, generating nearly $1 billion in 2023 and 8 to 10% of GDP. Ecotourism and lodges thrive, though infrastructure lags. Now, the political landscape in 2025 hinges on Mnangagwa's Vision 2030, an economic blueprint for upper middle income status, now tied to his controversial push to extend his presidency beyond 2028. In January, ZANU-PF proposed a constitutional amendment to prolong Mnangagwa's rule until 2030, framing it as vital for Vision 2030's goals, like 6% growth driven by lithium and gold exports. Now, critics, citing the 2023 elections, irregularities flagged by the Southern African Development Community, see this as a power grab, with sanctions targeting Mnangagwa for rights abuses intensifying scrutiny. Now, this term extension bid has fueled unrest, led by figures like Blessed Geza, a war veteran and ex-ZANU-PF member expelled for dissent. Geza, now a fugitive, sparked protests on 31 March, with 95 arrests in Harare as demonstrators chanted Mnangagwa must go, accusing him of corruption. Geza, linked to Vice President Constantino Chiwenga's faction, has used YouTube to denounce Mnangagwa's allies like Kudata Gwire. Journalist Blessed Mhlanga, detained since February 2025 for interviewing Geza, faces charges of inciting violence, a case Geza calls judicial overreach. Now, the Private Voluntary Organizations Amendment Bill, signed on 11 April, further tightens civic space, raising authoritarian fears. Meanwhile, a coffee revival in Manica, with 1,350 farmers planting 1 million trees since 2021, and rhino conservation in Matobo signal quieter progress. As Easter Friday involves renewal, stay with us on Africa Good Morning as we reflect on a country navigating power and resilience. Happy Independence Day, Zimbabwe. Happy Easter, Africa. Now, in recent Zimbabwe-focused news, 3 critical stories highlight the nation's complex domestic and international challenges. The Private Voluntary Organizations Amendment Bill threatens to restrict civic space by imposing stringent controls on NGOs, sparking concerns over freedom of association and humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe faces a U.S. immigration ban, part of broader travel restrictions affecting several African nations, complicating migration pathways. Additionally, in response to President Donald Trump's 18% tariff tariffs on Zimbabwean exports, President Emmerson Mnangagwa suspended tariffs on U.S. imports, a move aimed at fostering bilateral ties but criticized for potentially undermining local industries and regional solidarity. These clips explore the implications of these pivotal developments.
Yes, for the past 2 or so years, there has been debate about the amendments of the Private Voluntary Organizations Amendment Bill into law. But on Friday, President Emmerson Mnangagwa signed the controversial Private Voluntary Organization Amendment Bill into law, triggering sweeping changes to Zimbabwe's regulatory framework for civic groups and non-governmental organizations. According to the gazetted text, the new act gives authorities extensive powers to monitor and control the operations of private voluntary organizations, including the ability to scrutinize their ownership structure, funding sources, and affiliation. It introduces a strict definition of beneficial owner and controller, potentially holding individuals criminally liable, including with imprisonment terms of up to 35 years for offenses related to illicit financing or misrepresentation. The law also empowers government to deregister organizations, seize assets, or dissolve entities found to be in breach of the new provisions. The Act established a private voluntary organization board which comprises of representatives from the civil society and different ministries. But some members of the civil society have said that this bill this new law could be used to target organizations that challenge state policies and expose official corruption. So there has been debates in the past regarding this new law. Members of the civil society are saying that this new law could actually be used to target those organizations which challenge or which rather expose corruption within the government. So they are quite scared that this new law is going to make it difficult for those in the civil organization to actually do their duties diligently. And also you find out that the new law ensures that the government and different ministries rather are parts of how the civil organizations are running their organizations. So a lot is going to take place. So we're going to see how the civil society is going to respond to this and how the government is going to be involved with the civil society going forward. So most civil society organizations are actually scared that their organizations are going to be shut down. So we're just going to be monitoring the situation to see if any are going to be shut down and see how the government itself is going to be involved with the civil society organizations going forward. Zimbabwe is one of the 41 countries whose citizens could be banned from traveling to the United States of America under measures being discussed to address national security and public safety threats, reports claimed on Friday. An internal memo circulated among aides of President Donald Trump outlines a draft proposal for an expanded travel ban. The memo categorizes countries into 3 tiers. There's the red one, orange, and yellow, and Zimbabwe is in the yellow category. And countries in this category would have 60 days to address concerns raised by the United States or risk being moved to one of the 2 more restrictive groups. The list put together by the U.S. State Department might be subject to change.
Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has announced the suspension of tariffs on U.S. imports just days after former U.S. President Donald Trump slapped an 18% levy on Zimbabwean goods, a decision critics say is a desperate attempt to appease Washington in hopes of having targeted sanctions lifted. Sanctions that, despite a partial rollback under the Biden administration, still implicate Mnangagwa for alleged human rights abuses and corruption. With bilateral trade already modest at 111.6 million in 2024, analysts like Tendai Mbanje argue that the benefits of this unilateral concession skew heavily in favor of the U.S., while prominent journalist Hopewell Chinono criticizes Mnangagwa's solo diplomacy as a missed opportunity to rally the Southern African Development Community SADC, which he currently chairs, into a collective response to Trump's broader tariff assault that also saw Lesotho hit with a punitive 50% duty, prompting it to seek fresh negotiations and new markets. As we continue, Zimbabwe's ongoing struggle for political reform and justice takes center stage in these compelling stories. On March 31, 2025, war veteran Blessed Geza called for nationwide protests against President Emmerson Mnangagwa, decrying corruption and an unconstitutional bid for a third term. But the demonstrations saw low turnout amid heavy police crackdowns and Geza's eventual withdrawal, citing a plan to frame him for terrorism. Meanwhile, the unresolved disappearance of activist Itai Dzamara, abducted in 2015 after his anti-Mugabe protests, continues to haunt Zimbabwe, with his family and advocates demanding answers from a government accused of fostering impunity. These clips delve into the courage, risks, and unresolved questions surrounding Zimbabwe's fight for change. It's time to talk to Talent Kore. She brings us the Zimbabwe report. Talent Wamukase. Tamuka Hedu. Now, yesterday, protests were called by Comrade Geza, who's currently a fugitive, and these protests were against the extension of Emmerson Mnangagwa's term and against corruption and corrupt individuals. How did they transpire?
Well, yesterday, people decided to stay home. Most of the businesses were shut down. No one was in town. At around 8 a.m. when we were going around assessing the situation in the country, most schools did not even open. Major businesses were closed down, and people were not seen in towns. They decided to stay home. But Geza had called for the citizens of Zimbabwe to go into the streets and demonstrate against corruption, against President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term extension to beyond 2028 to 2030. But in most of the towns in Zimbabwe, you could find policemen moving around. They're saying that they want to ensure that there is peace. No one was to gather in any parts of the country. A group of people tried to gather at Harare Magistrate Court at the Robert Mugabe Freedom Square, but they were displaced by the police, and police were actually throwing tear gas to those people who wanted to demonstrate. So as for Geza, some people may say that he achieved what he wanted, but rather people just decided to stay away. They didn't go into the streets to demonstrate or to protest because they fear for their lives. I think most of the Zimbabweans, they have trauma from what happened during the August 2018 elections, in which the military shot people. Apparently 8 people died during that time when they were protesting in the streets. So yesterday, people decided to stay at home. Most people didn't go to work, and children were not, parents did not send their children to school yesterday.
Thank you, Zimbabwe, for heeding our call to take action. I've been in the streets of Harare this morning to assess the situation the streets were empty, absolutely empty. And I received similar reports from other cities. This is very encouraging. You have sent a clear message that you want Emerson and his corrupt cabal, Zigananda, to go. This is the beginning of a series of events to send you packing. And we want to assure you that he is going in the shortest possible time. Now, what's next? I've decided to call off the protest. This is because I've gathered intelligence of an evil plan. Sean Mnangagwa bought explosives. He wants to bomb certain targets tonight and blame it on me. This will be done to label me a terrorist. We had our peaceful protest today. Now, let's call it off for now. A statement has already been made. I'll come back to you on Wednesday with a very, very crucial announcement. This will change the direction of things and take us to a higher, new level. Because of this vascular dementia, Mnangagwa is no longer aware of what is going on.
Bold accusations which should be baseless. However, Zimbabweans have started pulling clips of President Emmerson Mnangagwa where they feel that his mental capacity may have been inconsistent. And one of those clips is from a speech this last weekend, which some people feel gives credence to Geza's claims. Here it is.
Akuseka kwazimoti muri vane vevu kutonga nyika kuterera vanobhuruka vemudenga.
All right, Tannant, could you please give us more on that story?
Yes, the sensational claims by Geza are not new, having previously been made by exiled former cabinet minister Sevia Kasukuwere back in 2019. He said, Kasukere at that time said that the president was suffering from dementia, and ZANU-PF and government spokesperson George Charamba defended the president, saying that Kasukuwere was just jealous that he was exiled from Zimbabwe. And right now you find out that the government rather recently has said that attempts by Blessed Geza to introduce a motion in National Assembly to impeach President Mnangagwa are doomed to fail because the move lacks cross-party support, while the grounds for the so-called impeachment are a stake of lies.
Zimbabwe is making waves, both regionally and globally, as captured in these dynamic stories. FastJet Zimbabwe has launched a new Harare-Lusaka flight route, operating thrice weekly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, boosting connectivity and economic ties with Zambia using a 50-seater Embraer aircraft. Meanwhile, Zimbabwean football fans showed strong support in South Africa, turning out in large numbers to cheer the Warriors during their recent match, highlighting the nation's passionate sports culture. On the fairways, Zimbabwe's women's golf team secured an impressive second place at a tournament in Namibia, showcasing their growing prowess. Across the Atlantic, Zimbabwean artists are captivating audiences in New York, displaying their vibrant creations and elevating the country's cultural presence on the world stage. These clips celebrate Zimbabwe's achievements in aviation, sports, golf, and the arts. FastJet has introduced flight services linking Harare and Lusaka. Tell us more.
Yes, award-winning air carrier FastJet has launched a new scheduled flight service connecting Zimbabwe and Zambia's capital cities of Harare and Lusaka. The route, according to the air carrier, will commence on April 9, 2025, operating 3 times a week, which is on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. FastJet Zimbabwe spokesperson Dawana said they were delighted to introduce a route between the two regional cities. Zimbabwe and Zambia have a symbiotic relationship that cuts across multiple sectors, and the introduction of this route attests to FastJet's commitment and contribution to further economic and social development of Zimbabwe and Zambia. As you know, right now, Zimbabwe's stadiums, they are deemed not fit to host international games. So the Zimbabwean Warriors are traveling right now. They were in Durban where they played with Benin, and right now they are in Nigeria for their game against Nigeria, which is coming up. And Zimbabweans in South Africa definitely showed out and showed up for the Zimbabwean Warriors. They celebrated the Warriors, and there was quite a number of Zimbabweans who were cheering on them. This made the Warriors feel like they were playing at home. The Warriors drew with Benin 2-2, and they both had to share points despite them wanting a win. But we are still quite proud of that draw. So right now they have a match against Nigeria, the Super Eagles, and they are in Nigeria. We are hoping that Zimbabweans in Nigeria will also go and support the Zimbabwe Warriors as they take on Nigeria. Yes, our local visual artists Virginia Chiwuta and Anthony Bonera are showcasing their collection in the United States, enhanced profile on the international stage. The exhibition, titled Hurukuro, is taking place at number 52 Walker Street, New York, and features a diverse range of their artistic work. Apparently, Munira and Chiwuta are quite household names in Zimbabwe, and people are quite excited that they are showcasing their work in the United States, because right now they have been going around in Zimbabwe, and actually they have people that they are mentoring in Zimbabwe within their sector. So it is quite exciting that they are showcasing their work at an international stage. But this is not new to them, because they have been going around, especially in the United States, showcasing their work there. So it is quite exciting to hear that we have local visual artists who actually have work that is recognized at an international stage.
Exciting news indeed. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories on Africa Good Morning, bringing us the comprehensive Zimbabwe report. Muswere Zvakanaka. Zimbabwe women's national golf team secured a strong second-place finish at the 2025 Southern Regional All-Africa Challenge Trophy.
Yes, and the team, which is led by 15-year-old sensational Miriam Masia, Zimbabwe produced a commanding performance to finish runner-ups to the regional powerhouse South Africa in the prestigious amateur tournament, reaffirming their growing stature on the continental stage. Their total team score of 490, based on the two best individual scores per round, was just 40 strokes adrift of the dominant South Africans, who clinched the title with 450. Zimbabwe comfortably held off third-placed Namibia by 39 strokes, with Eswatini and Lesotho finishing further adrift in fourth and fifth place, respectively. The president of Zimbabwe Ladies Golf Union said that the performance was an inspiration and it was promising. She said that she was very proud of the team for coming up second in that tournament.
So that's been our show on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, 1up2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. Once again, we'd like to wish Zimbabwe a happy Independence Day, and to the rest of Africa, happy Easter Friday. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, Swera Jaganaga.